Okay. So how are you doing? Good, thanks. Okay. Yeah, as Jason said, I'm Peter. I'm one of the heads of xoio, and yeah, I got the honor to represent this amazing team of artists. Let me give you a quick introduction to our studio. xoio was founded in 2006, and I was looking for different names at the time. Thank you very much. So all the names I came up with, they were already occupied in the domain. So I was looking for the shortest possible domains available. And xoio was one that looked nice and had these nice buttons. So that's how xoio happened. OK, xoio was born in 2006, as I said. We are located in Berlin. And we have a team of roughly 15 people. Seems to be a good size for us, because we were quite stable at that size for a little title already now. We're doing architectural imagery, as I guess most of the people here are doing. Property marketing, the whole package. Yeah, typical Berlin project. We're doing exterior, interior, and animations if required. Another Berlin project we're doing, which was very important for us, was the Tacheles project. If you're familiar with Berlin, you might know the site. It's a cultural heritage site, and it's populated with good architects from diverse sources, Herzog de Meuron, for example. And yeah, I'm actually quite proud of our team and the close collaboration we have with the marketing teams. Providing quite unique setups of interior designs, and if desired, providing them the whole interior design package as well. I mean, for the visuals. But we also love to take up other tasks, brand imagery, if it comes our way. So we did images for all kinds of known brands. And because we like to have a diverse portfolio. A special field which we kind of established over the last couple of years are these future scenarios, which we do for technology and science partners. We call them multi-narrative landscapes, visual landscapes. So, the good thing, or it's actually a quite good task for us, because we give scientists a voice. Normally, they have sometimes really difficulty communicating or what they're actually putting their science or their research in, and then these images help them to put them in context. We also like to do internal works. That was something we started 2 years ago. Gave out a brief to our whole team with naming a place called home, and then Corona struck, and literally everybody was sitting at home. The original intention to turn it into a little exhibition in Kreuzberg then had to be transformed to turn it into a virtual exhibition. So you can tour the gallery, and in addition to that, we also printed these little postcards. So if you want to have a couple of nice postcards at the end of the talk, please feel free to approach us. Some of the people might still know us for our cutouts. This is a more recent collection. When we first did them in 2014 or something like this. We had very good feedback. It was a good time doing them. And I just want to mention, basically, this little microsite called xoio Air is still up and running. And we still provide content. For example, these multi-light cutouts. I don't know, nobody noticed them, but I found them actually quite good. So you can actually customize the light for your cutouts. So yeah. Check out the site if you want. And at the moment, I'm mostly doing tutorials for Max and Blender. So, but that's actually not the topic of this talk. I wanted to talk about the opposite, actually, of polished renders and artist imagery, about stuff that's not perfect. And I want to talk about sketching. So dare to be sketchy is my claim, and it's about yeah, being more loose in your creative process. When I addressed Fabio, what do you want me to talk about? He said, like, do something personal, something that brought you further in your creative career. And so, yeah, I came up with a little personal story here. And So, yeah, we covered the intro, a short summary of what I want to tell about. The first part is going to be, I want to take you on a small journey of my sketching process. Then in the second part, what I actually took away from the sketching, which I think is worth sharing. And at the end of it, I want to talk about how I actually can loop this back into our production. So, yeah, please raise your hands if you ever questioned your decision to be a visual or 3D artist. Thanks. I was really nervous about it, that nobody would raise their hands, and okay, it's only me. So yeah, that's basically me 5 years back. I was frustrated by working in 3D. I had a studio, and I dreaded what I was doing. And the process actually felt like this. So, I mean, yeah. You can ask Midjourney to do 4 variations of an image in a minute, and it takes a couple of minutes to start up a single scene. So, whatever. I was frustrated with my creative process, and then I had a feeling I need to change something. I need to look into that. So that was the time when my partner, Lasse, pointed me to people. And his daily stuff, his dailies. And what he did was so the opposite of what my creative process looked like. I mean, apart from the production work we did at the office. And so I felt inspired, and I wanted to try this. And as I pointed out, like, I was on bad terms with 3D, and I said, well, let's do something in 2D. So this is the state of things I was starting at 2015, and I was, yeah, since I had an architecture background, I felt familiar with a pen. But yeah, I realized quickly I'm lacking visual library, I'm lacking the skills to put stuff into perspective. Moving forward to 2 years, things maybe get a little more convincing in perspective. As you can see, I'm into sci-fi concept design, and that was also part of the thing that I really just wanted to do what I wanted, or I did what I wanted to do in my own creation process. Another two years ahead, this is me taking part in the Inktober 2019. And I know if you're not familiar with Inktober, it was founded by, the idea came from Jake Parker. Basically during October, doing the daily theme, and each day do 1 image, which I mostly failed because I realized I had from all my production work not the capability to be really loose. One thing I really like about 2D sketching that yeah, you can so quickly start telling stories, which I always find difficult in 3D. From the same series, and since you just work on a daily basis, I mean, you can try out stuff that you normally wouldn't do. I'm not too much into toon stuff, but yeah, as I said, it just seemed to be the right thing to do for the daily subject, so I did like 2 rather toony pieces. I always had trouble with keeping like a loose pencil. That's why I took this in, because it was one of these times, probably was a little drunk, and I felt like I'm in the right mood just to keep a loose pencil, and then you start doing variations, 5 minutes each. And it's a very satisfying process. It's good fun. There's just one thing I witnessed when I looked at artists that inspired me, that they kept the base drawing underneath, so it was part of the drawing, and I kind of liked that. It looked good. And at first I thought, well, it's maybe some kind of texture that you're adding to a sketch. But in fact, like, I started to realize, I think it's even more like the viewer can participate in your process. you're sharing what you actually have been thinking, how you came up with a drawing. And that gives a sketch an authentic quality. And authenticity, I think, these days is very valuable. So yeah, that's just a quick run-through. I discovered that Procreate automatically creates these time lapses, which are very satisfying to watch. So yeah. Zoop. One thing that's great about if you build like this sketching habit is that you can start experimenting with different workflows, or at least that's what I love to do. And this little sheet, which was a weekend piece, was inspired by Do Chiang, one of the main concept artists by Star Wars, who said basically if you want to build like a convincing conceptual design, think of the silhouette. You need a strong silhouette. I mean, if you have a TIE fighter, it's like this. If you have an X-Wing, it's like this. And like this, you can go on through basically all the iconic shapes of Star Wars design. And that's basically what went in there. And in a digital medium, obviously, you can draw in, and you can start carving out again, and like this, experiment quite quickly with different shapes. And this is a really early exercise that we did in a workshop in our office. We had on a very irregular basis, sometimes workshops, and then if you even turn on the symmetry modifier, things even start more quicker to make sense. Another study we did in our office and are these thumbnail compositions, just to practice basically how do you set up an image really quickly. And by keeping the images really small, you avoid to getting into details too quickly. And then on top of that, I started this coloration process, which was heavily inspired by Deftberger, if you know the artist. Just quickly sidestepping into the field of how you make a ritual. And actually, if you want to build up the sketching habit, a ritual is actually more happening to you than you building it up. And I often hear people, when I talk about sketching, that they would like to sketch more. And I say, well, the obvious answer is you just have to, or no, they would like to know how to sketch. And the answer is you just have to do it on a regular basis. So the first, I mean, there are two sides to my personal habit there. It's, the one is you can take your sketchbook always on the go. You have to have basically a sketchbook always with you. And then whenever you are in an inspirational atmosphere, or you're just bluntly waiting for a render to finish, you pick up a sketchbook and then do a couple of loose doodles. And the other thing is having this flow, or this habit in the morning. I'm an early morning person, and so this 1 hour in the morning before my family gets up, this is my hour, and the most important thing is actually to have no distractions on the side, and this is just poor quality time when you get into flow. But since I'm in the studio, I have the power to drag my team with me. So this is our office trip to the Pfaueninsel, which we did last year, and so we sketched the local architecture there. And with the time, also some tools start to grow onto you, and this is my satchel, which I always carry with me. And one thing that's actually which I found interesting to talk about is this little component which I call the fire starters, which are basically printouts from artists which I really like, and which help me to get inspiration in situations. And it's not so much about the motive; it's mostly about the way these people draw and how they keep a loose pencil. And to illustrate this, this is like one of my inspirations, which I always have, from Karl Kopinski, which is a total machine. And you could argue, well, it's a good technique, but I think it's also a lot about the visual library he collected. And now he goes basically into beast mode, drawing with 2 pens. So this is not fake. That's how he does his stuff.
Yeah, fuck this guy.
Yeah. He's very nice. He's a very humble person if he doesn't look like this. Okay, just to wrap basically my personal little sketch story up here is it's split into two pieces. This is stuff from this year. And the one is really I want to force myself to stay more loose, not polish it too much. And working with a ball pen, it helps a lot because a ball pen has no undo function at all. You just have to move forward in the process. And then you start, you can do variations, jumping between them in your sketchbook. And as I said, just keep a loose pencil stroke and try to move forward in a persistent manner. And on the other hand, I started to finish up drawings more when I liked how they developed. And this is also inspired by this guy called Deathburger a lot. Lot of little details and stories to tell in there. Some more. Mostly they grow around like a central figure and then become colored and finished. And these drawings are like these finished ones. I like to give them out to presents, as presents to my dear ones and family, which I thought actually is something nice if you work in a real analog medium, and which we kind of sometimes forget as 3D artists, that you can just do drawings for the people who are dear to you. And just for the process, this drawing started as a sketch in 3D until I had the basic perspective established. Now you might say these drawings, the last ones I showed, they're not sketches, they're finished, but obviously there's a lot of sketching, idea finding involved in between until you get to the final line drawing and to the colored version that I did for my son, Friedi. Okay, what did I took away from this? This is actually the core of my talk, what I wanted to share. First learning is, seek flow. If you're in a ideation process, talking about sketching, you could endlessly talk about different mediums. You could talk about, charcoal, pencil, and different kinds of paper going analog or digital. While if you're a digital person, I would advise you to have this kind of outlet where you do something with your hands. I think it's very healthy and good. But in the end, these basics, they don't matter here. Or that's not the point I want to make. The point I would like to do here is that you find a working medium that allows you to have the most direct connection between your head and the medium. And since you have this immediate visual feedback, you get into this more easily into this flow-like state. And I think, especially in 3D, or that's what I also often witness in our studio, that this kind of flow is often broken. Like if you do a rendering, if you wait for rendering, if you have an autosave, which takes a long time. I think these are all elements that will break flow, and people start being distracted and do other stuff. And I think this is something to consider if you want to create new ideas. And you should be looking for, as I said, the most fluent kind of flow situation in your work. And we had this little experiment a couple of years back, which was fun. So we sat down and we started to model with food to have this kind of immediate feedback situation. And it's kind of childish, yes, but on the other hand, I'm kind of proud what we came up with in like something like 2-hour time. And another impression. So learning number 2, embrace happy accidents. If you move forward in like this kind of flow-like state when you're sketching, things might happen that are not expected. For example, a stroke that you do might turn out a different way, but it will lead your drawing into a different direction. You are kind of losing control a little, but it's something you can actually embrace. I don't know if this guy who did this bust, he was so happy about this accident. But I mean, yeah, he made other people happy through this now. So kind of a success. But on a more serious level, you got like watercolors. For me, it's like these micro happy accidents which are always happening. That's why I think it's such a beautiful medium, just to let loose things happen and see where they're going. And yeah, and indeed, I'm asking myself, how can we find this in 3D again? How can we find this in our digital tools again to get inspired by the tools that we're using, actually? You can enforce happy accidents. This is a little sketch club exercise, which my colleague Julia brought once for an evening, and it's called the blob challenge. So either with markers or watercolors, you do these little blobs, and then you try to see something in them. And fun process, and you definitely will come up with stuff that you wouldn't have thought of before. On a different level, that's Scott Robertson, which is amazing drafting artist, and he did these drawings with his left hand because he wanted to lose his muscle memory, all this exercise to come up with something more shapy and something more freely, which he didn't expect, and then turn it into shapes and volumes and concept vehicles. Iterations matter. I got a little story here for that, and it's about a study that's been done with students from a pottery class, and they split the class in two, and told the one class, at the end of the year you're going to be graded based on a masterpiece that you're going to submit. And the other part of the class, they told you, we don't care what you do, you just have to submit as much pottery as possible, and you will be graded on the kilograms that you provide. That's the second part. And at the end of the year, the second group did the better pieces. So what happened? I mean, I think the students were forced to be in a more practicing state. They were forced to accept unfinished results as part of a process and move on. And in the end, the final result actually benefited from that. Or again, Scott Robertson, I mean, if you're fast, then you can, obviously it will allow you to do iterations more quickly, and that's him, as far as I remember, working for Hot Wheels, exploring different concepts of a concept truck. If you do these iterations on the personal level, that means you're practicing. If you do it on an object level, it means you're exploring the object and you're building a visual library on it. I mean, if you paint 100 pirates, you're going to be the pirate expert at the end of it. And if you do it on a project level, it means you're creating variations and choices, and clients love to have choices as part of the process. And you're in charge of to choose which choices they have. And all these little learnings I came up with, they lead up to basically thinking more inside the process and not so much in the result. So the sketches I'm doing that feel most freely and that feel best at times, they happen during situations when I'm in a conference call or on the phone. I'm just doodling away. And I think that the reason for that is because at that moment I'm the least concerned about final results. I'm in the moment, and I'm sketching quite loosely. A sketch, by definition, and this is just drawn from Wikipedia, but I think it's something we all understand quite naturally, is something which is not to be finished. A sketch, for me, is the opposite of a final result. And I would assume, or I would argue that when we're in a creative processes in our daily work and we leave more space for sketches, that can be really liberating in our creative thinking. If sketch is not good, who cares? I mean, it didn't take much time. You do another one. And you embrace the process of creating these variations. As professional 3D artists in our studios, obviously we have to think about goals, and we have to deliver goals, because no client is paying us to just doodle around. But I would assume that, yeah, there are a lot of situations in our everyday workflow when we focus too much on the results and not so much on the process. Like in this image, I mean, if you want to go to the summit, you should ask yourself, do you really enjoy the way up there? Because if you don't, you probably will fail. And I think like this kind of thinking can be transferred to many levels. It can be a short-term project, but it can also be like a career choice. So yeah, good results come from passionate processes, I would assume. And at the heart, to conclude this, this was basically what my personal dilemma, which I talked at the beginning, was all about. I was, after 15 years in production, I was thinking so much about result that I had this perfectionist attitude. Everything had to be, if it wasn't perfect in the end or suitable to put on our website or whatever, it wasn't good. And that was really blocking me. And yeah, sketching helped me to find more joy in the process again. So the thing I call sketchism, just to conclude, this means for me, yeah, being more in flow or seeking flow, embracing little mistakes and happy accidents, iterate, practice, explore a theme, and last but not least, think process and less result. And since none of these is about a technique, a certain technique, but rather it's something I would call a mindset. So I want to quickly, at the end, loop back into our production, what we do on our daily daily workflow, and how how sketches could benefit for what you do on a daily basis. For some tasks that we get, and as I said, I think we have a quite broad portfolio. The task for me feels like sieging a castle. And a lot of 3D artists that we have in our studio, they come with basically one tool in the 3D. And it's all about basically bringing a lot of tools to the job. So if you want to siege a castle, it's good if you additionally have catapults and rams and cavalry or whatever. And so what could these be? Mood images, yeah, sketches, as I said, doing a rebrief, or AI. I mean, we still don't know actually, or we're trying to figure out how we can implement these AI-generated images into our creation and ideation process. This is a pretty old future scenario we did for Daimler quite a while back. And as you can see, it's filled with little side stories here and there. So how would you normally start a process like this? And at xoio, we start these kind of processes normally like this, doing these composition thumbnails, doing little composition sketches of the objects we want to use, working a lot with reference images, which I think is also kind of a loose ideation process, and rebriefing ourselves. Did we understand the task right? Or why not start like an image more in a freely designed way, in a 2D way, to give you an impression what kind of mood would you actually want, where do you want to go? And this was done in our xoio sketch club as well. And most of these didn't take more than like 10 to 20 minutes. Another benefit that I see is the thing I would call switching roles. So looking into our studio, I see people when they're caught in 3D. It's not easy for them to go back into a 2D space and work on the image in a quick manner again, and maybe recognize what the problems are, or how to pin them down, and then switch back into 3D. This is a process image from another scenario image we did, and a lot of things should be told in there, but as you can see, the whole image is lacking focus. It's too much fine detail. So what we did, as an overlay, did this kind of sketch over, and I mean, obviously, technically, that's super easily done. You don't require any real skills, but you need to know what you want to do. And in the next stage, the image already was improved a lot concerning focus and composition and light distribution, tonal massing, as you would describe, like the massing of different light values. And this is from my personal stuff as well. Like if I like to do these little concept 3Ds meanwhile again in 3D, and but it's vital for me to be at a stage, just print it out, take a screenshot, put it back in my iPad, and sketch over whatever I think is the next direction to go. And that's something I would find really hard to do in 3D directly. Something from the archivist sector done by my colleague Art, as a step in between having the clay render and the next production rendering. And that's something he came up with himself to do this quick collage and have a better impression where the next, mood-wise, the next step would be like. Make it part of your results. That's one project we recently did for the Fraunhofer Institute. And so we had the following situation. The client wanted to have a different style. He wanted to have something which was not something he has quite seen from us before. Second thing is he had not so much budget, and again, we had to tell a lot of stories. So this was the second view to this, and as we are really close to all the characters, so what we did is we built up the scene in Blender, and then created these outline drawings on top of it. And in the next step here, we just sketched in character and little stories that we wanted to be told in that scene. And then a manual coloration process, and that is like the final image that we submitted. And last but not least is about how can you actually apply what I've talked about in 3D. And that was the time also when I learned Blender, and big fan, but as I saw, I'm not the only one anymore who appreciates using Blender. And well, you could argue about Blender versus other packages, and I definitely don't want to go down that road, but Blender offers a set of creative tools that you wouldn't really find in other tools, and I want to show a couple of works and other artists who do this quite convincingly. For example, Yama Yurabayev, always difficult this name, working with grease pencil and showcasing, unless you don't know it already, his workflow. So doing a quick sculpting tool is also integrated in Blender. And now using the grease pencil to basically draw Illustrator in 3D, and then just really in a very quick manner giving it a shape, a volume. I mean, the mesh is probably horrible, but that's not the point here. And then in Eevee, in real-time shading, creating a very quick result and look. And I mean, he really knows what he's doing. I think that's the key. But anyhow, it's probably a process of, I don't know, 1 or 2 hours. another example by him, which I really love. So these are YouTube videos you find also online promoting his courses. But I just love what he does to really establish quickly a composition. And so grease pencil, I mean, it can be drawn on objects, but it can also be drawn in space or on ground or on different levels, can be moved around, and yeah. Or another artist, which is just amazing. So unless you haven't lived under a rock, you might hopefully know Ian Hubert, unless check really out his 1-minute lazy tutorials. And all his workflows are all like really moving forward and not wasting time, basically with useless processes that won't be seen in your 3D scene as well. And that's one of my own little concept studies I've been doing, and basically just showcasing the powerful Boolean tools, which I love a lot, inspired by an artist called Jerry Perkins. And yeah, you're using then the grease pencil to quickly draw the panel lines, which then we can use in the next step. And to finally sum this up, I mean, yeah, that's my tiny little happy ending for my journey, is that I'm back in 3D again, and I enjoy doing my 3D processes and making use of the stuff that I've told for, and yeah, creating again that concept art in 3D, which renders fine and also is printed nicely. Thanks.
Me grab the mic and then I'll come up here. This is so beautiful.
Yeah, check it out, but the reels are not moving, so if you break it, me not happy.
Take a look, okay?
Yeah.
Before the party. So, Peter, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing this. You know, before we go for the party, feel free to come around. Also grab some of the beautiful postcards, which are basically little artworks that you can frame on your wall.
You got some, right?
Yeah, I did, yeah, for Christmas. Thanks a lot again. But I think I've wrote you already.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Peter.